All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless me again, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there just like you and just like me. All right, before I get going on this video, annoying plug for Perfect Plan. Brace for impact, most likely in my top 20 for the year. Not sure yet, and I'm really being lazy on this top 20 thing. Maybe tomorrow. Because this video will not be the top 20. Anyway, if you like great music, bands like Foreigner and Survivor and Whitesnake, check out Perfect Plan. One of my favorite tunes on here is a song called If Love Walks In, not to be confused with Love Walks In by Van Halen. The song is definitely not a remake. Speaking of Van Halen, and I completely missed this because a patron had sent me a message saying, "Are you listening to the David Lee Roth show?" And I'm thinking, what David Lee Roth show? That Roth thing was like from years ago. If you remember, I think it was on Sirius XM or it was syndicated. And I think it was syndicated, and it was basically there to replace Howard Stern. So it wasn't on satellite. I think it was on terrestrial radio, but it was syndicated out to everybody. And Roth was kind of made into the new Howard Stern, although he's nothing like Howard Stern. The breaking news, though, on this new Roth show is that he finally said something nice about Eddie Van Halen. This is the first time I've heard Roth say anything nice since Eddie passed away. He posted some artwork over on Twitter and said something like, the Jerry Garcia thing, what a long, strange trip it's been, or something like that. Didn't say rest in peace, Ed. Didn't say the world is going to miss one of the great guitar players of all time. But finally, we get to hear something positive from David Lee Roth, who I think a month or two ago said something like Eddie Van Halen was culturally illiterate. And that, I think, appeared on some Van Halen fan page or chat room, news desk, probably Van Halen news desk. So all of this, and I'm thinking to myself, how come he can't just say something decent about Eddie Van Halen? And of course, there has been no Eddie tribute. In fact, Roth was at the airport and somebody was talking to him about a tribute, and Roth said, "Well, a tribute to me?" So, I mean, again, if you're looking for somebody who's got normal sympathy enzymes, I don't know if that's David Lee Roth, but he does say in this latest episode of the rebooted Roth Show podcast, see, podcasting is good money, and if you're just recording it, just the audio portion of it, nobody has to see what you look like anymore, and that might actually help David Lee Roth at this stage. But anyway, Roth says his relationship with Eddie Van Halen was one of the best of his life. Okay, so he says something positive about the relationship. Now, again, I'm going to nitpick here because that's what I do. So he had a good relationship, or it was one of the best he ever had. So that might imply that he liked Eddie Van Halen, or he got along with Eddie Van Halen. He says his relationship was one of the best of his life. All right. Now, Roth tends to be kind of a loner, right? Especially in the last 10 or 20 years. So I don't know. Maybe he's not a loner. He went up to that hotel room that time when he heard the Van Halen music playing inside, and he pounded on the door, and he had a little entourage with him. So, maybe Roth does have people around him at all times to tell him how great he is. I don't know. He goes on to say, "Boy, I miss him. I had a ball with Ed." All right. Well, so if you miss somebody, then you probably liked them. right? But he never says anything about Ed's personality, Ed's sense of humor. He says, I had a ball with Ed. He goes on to talk about Walt Disney and Walt having an affair with Mickey Mouse because that is better than any love affair with a woman. And he says, playing with Ed, writing songs with Ed, presenting those songs with Ed was better than any love affair I ever had. Full stop there. A lot of speculation, though, about David Lee Roth's love life. I'm just going to leave it there. It's just, I've already speculated one or two times on here, and I wasn't the one that did the research on this. Somebody else brought it to my attention, and I'm like, yeah, that's plausible. Certainly is plausible. Anyway, Roth goes on. He says, some of those songs I think might last forever or until the last syllable of time, like Shakespeare said. They've become anthems. Where are they playing Jump right now? Well, yeah, they haven't focus tested Jump out of the top 40 or 80s classic rock format as of yet. They may do it someday, but they haven't done it yet. And with all of the classic Van Halen that is out there, they tend to focus on Jump because it was a #1 Billboard song. By the way, a song that nobody really liked. The producer, Ted Templeman, thought the song wasn't like a Van Halen song because of all the keyboards and the weird chord changes and just some of the things he was not too happy about. He didn't think it sounded like a normal Van Halen song. Apparently, Eddie Van Halen overruled Ted Templeman, and Ted even said later on that he didn't expect the song to be as big as it was. And it still is. So yeah, you'll hear Jump every now and then. Elsewhere in the episode, David Lee Roth has also talked about the Van Halen covers album that he's got out there, or the songs that are being released. And he says here he's relying on gear developed in the EDM genre. Now, if you don't know what EDM is, don't feel bad. I thought it was a kind of bean, the EDM bean, but I was wrong. It's actually a style of music, electronic digital music, I think, EDM, or electronic dance music. It's electronic dance music. Okay. Could be digital too, because all of it is pretty much done on a computer. Roth goes on to say, being from classic rock, there's not much that I'm going to really change in the Van Halen issues, he said. We went for the sonics, we went for the sounds, we went for the mix. So, yeah, the mix. Again, the production value on these songs is okay, but they don't stand up to the original songs in any way, unless you just want to get a different take on a song that you know really well. And then you might want to go and listen to Everybody Wants Some. That came out a couple of days ago. And I said, yeah, if you like the Van Halen brand, this is a good way to dilute that brand and make it not as good as it once was, because you've got multiple versions of this song out there, and people, unfortunately, are going to land on the updated version as they do their daily streaming on Spotify or Apple Music or YouTube or wherever you listen to quality music, or in this case, subpar quality music from David Lee Roth. Look, the version is okay. That's as far as I'll go with it. It's okay. I'm thinking it's a cash grab. Anyway, Roth goes on to talk about how he's employing some of that EDM technology, but he's recording with original instruments and those same amps and pickups and microphones and stuff. What can we bring that's new? He argued that the results were a little bit fatter and answered that he called the Starbucks questions, or what he called the Starbucks questions, what's your band sound like now? How's your voice? And are you still skinny? Anyway, he goes on to talk about medication that he's been taking because of surgery on an arthritic foot. He says, I have a new big toe. I had an ungrateful big toe, he said. I have taken it around the world, and I don't know how many times, and then it gave up on me. So it's good David Lee Roth banter. He can be pretty witty, pretty interesting to listen to. You don't really know what he's going to say next. He's kind of like the Robin Williams, the late, great Robin Williams. He's a little bit like that when it comes to the whole stream of consciousness thing. I think if you got David Lee Roth and Ted Nugent in a room and put a couple of microphones in front of them, and their politics, of course, that's going to clash as well. That would be, I think, pay-per-view level entertainment. That would be, gee, I might get an actual subscription to, Sirius satellite radio if it was the Nugent-Roth face-off, or the dueling consciousness of David Lee Roth and Ted Nugent. I would tune in for that. That would be really interesting. Anyway, folks, it's good to know that Dave didn't despise Ed so much that he couldn't eventually say something decent about the guy. He's been dead for quite some time now, and there's still no tribute concert. Notice how the tribute concert thing wasn't addressed here. Maybe it was addressed in another episode. I guess, this is going to be a regular podcast. So here's the deal, folks. I'm not going to listen to this podcast on a daily basis. If you hear something interesting and you want to clip it, and you're a patron and you want to send it to me, I'll be glad to analyze the audio and see if anything is newsworthy, and then present it to people like yours truly who don't want to spend any time listening to David Lee Roth talk. He is interesting, but he's not interesting enough considering all the other pressing things that are going on in the world today. All right, here is Perfect Plan, Brace for Impact. They have an album title that is quite prophetic for the day and time that we are living in. And if you have an opportunity, check this out. This is courtesy of our friends over at Frontiers Music. This will finish in my top 20 if I ever get around to doing the top 20 for 2022. Thanks for watching and supporting this channel in this year and hopefully next year as well. Don't forget, you can become a patron for just $1 a month. Say you want to send me an audio soundbite of David Lee Roth, or you just have something that you need to say. I typically get back to folks within probably a day or so, sometimes less, depending on my workload for the day. But I'd love to just hang out with like-minded people who enjoy some of the same music that I continue to enjoy, including the new music as well as the stuff we all grew up listening to. All right, folks, that's my video. I will see you soon.